In 2025, trying to go abroad from China has turned from a dream into an obstacle course. Why is leaving the country becoming nearly impossible for so many citizens?
我终于拿到这个了！2025年出国实在是太难了。
I finally got this. Going abroad in 2025 is really difficult. Now, many places don't even allow people to apply for passports anymore. For example, in places like Baoding and Hebei, Donghai and Jiangsu, Qinghai, Fujian and Guangxi, they aren't allowing it. It's really puzzling. Does anyone know why?
Nowadays, it's becoming harder for Chinese people to leave China. On May 3rd, a vlogger shared that many of their friends had noticed the process of traveling abroad has become more complicated. Passport policies in many regions like Fujian, Jiangsu, Hunan, and Hunan have tightened. Some friends who used their passports to return to China were contacted by local authorities asking them to cancel their passports. Now, getting out of the country is stricter than before. Many people have encountered various situations at the border, with some being directly turned back. Not only are visas useless, travelers might be restricted from leaving the country again for a while. The vlogger said that many new questions have been added at border checkpoints. Whether you're traveling for leisure, business, or to visit family, border officers will carefully ask about your itinerary. When passing through, your luggage and phone information may also be checked. Things like invitation letters and chat records are included in the check, and if something is found to be suspicious, you may not be allowed to proceed. Even if you have a ticket and visa, all of that may be wasted. A netizen shared that when they tried to leave, they were locked in a room and questioned for over an hour before being released.
不是，现在出国海关查的也太严了吧
Now customs is way too strict. I was just kept in a room for over an hour. They kept asking me why I was going to Thailand. For those of you in China thinking about working remotely abroad, you probably won't even get past customs now. Some of you who have your passport ready and were planning to fly to Cambodia won't be able to fly. If you can't provide proof of employment, or if you say you're just transiting through Kuala Lumpur or Thailand without a return ticket, you won't get through. You better stay in China earnestly.
One commented, "My relative asked me to go abroad with them a few years ago to help in a store. But after they went, they didn't come back for years. Now I regret not going with them." Another said, "A classmate of mine went to Japan years ago and never returned. They invited me to go with them back then, but I was too reluctant to leave this country. Now I really regret it." One person replied, "The country doesn't want you to leave either. They're afraid you won't come back once you go." An overseas YouTuber shared a story about a friend who planned to visit Thailand. When they arrived at customs, there was a long line. Officers were checking every passenger's phone. Chat logs, messages, and pictures were being thoroughly examined. When it was this friend's turn, customs officers found that they had inquired about working in Japan and even asked about studying in Southeast Asia. As a result, the Chinese customs authorities determined that this person wasn't just going for tourism, but was trying to escape China. So customs immediately detained them and denied their request to leave the country. The YouTuber reminds everyone, when leaving China, customs will check your phone. If people want to successfully leave China, they must make sure to delete all kinds of pictures, videos, and sensitive information to avoid being detained. On May 6th, a vlogger posted related invoices and documents, stating that getting a passport in Shanghai is harder than immigrating, and the required materials are just too much. When asked why exit management is so strict now, a vlogger suggested two main reasons. Once, to control the number of people leaving the country. The other is to reduce cross-border criminal activities. However, some netizens disagreed, saying it's not about cross-border crime. They're just afraid everyone will leave. After the 3-year pandemic, many Chinese citizens have illegally entered the United States through South and Central American countries to seek asylum. According to U.S. government data, 24,000 mainland Chinese entered the U.S. through this route in financial year 2023. In contrast, between 2012 and 2022, fewer than 15,000 mainland Chinese migrants were caught illegally crossing the southern border. Data from U.S. Customs and Border Protection show that from October 2022 to April 2023, more than 6,500 mainland Chinese citizens were arrested at the U.S.-Mexico border, the highest recorded figure, a 15-fold increase compared to the same period the previous year. Among those crossing the U.S.-Mexico border in recent years were many professionals from various industries. They earned well in China and held enviable social positions, yet they chose to leave their homeland, primarily due to oppression from the Chinese Communist Party. In 2024, the U.S. began tightening policies after Trump took office. He ordered a crackdown on illegal immigration. As a result, more migrants from China are heading to Europe. One of the more popular routes for Chinese people to reach Europe is the well-known Balkan route. This route is one of the EU's busiest immigration paths, typically passing through Turkey, Bulgaria, or Greece. While it's famous for its sea route, the name also suggests irregular overland and sea routes. A blogger asked, "What's going on? Why are Chinese people rushing to go abroad?" They said, "Now people of all ages, from 99-year-olds to young children, are trying to leave." For middle-aged people, it's about their children. For young people, it's due to pressure and the desire to make money abroad. For children, it's because their parents don't want them to face the same struggles they did in China. In early 2023, the international human rights organization Safeguard Defenders released a report stating that, according to data from the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, the number of Chinese asylum seekers has surpassed 1 million since Xi Jinping took office. The report mentions that over the past 2 years, many dramatic cases of people fleeing China have been reported in the media, and data from the United Nations Refugee Agency confirms that this trend began almost immediately after Xi Jinping came to power. To date, the total number of Chinese asylum seekers has exceeded 1 million. The report also points out that since Xi Jinping took office, the number of asylum seekers has been increasing at a record pace. In 2022 alone, the number of asylum seekers was equivalent to the total number during Hu Jintao's 10-year term. This doesn't even include those who left China through normal immigration channels, but did not seek asylum. The current migration trend is one of the clearest examples of voting with your feet happening under the authoritarian era of Xi Jinping. It strongly reflects how Xi's backward policies and the increasing fear brought on by the Chinese Communist Party have intensified the pressure on the Chinese people. But leaving China isn't easy anymore. A Chinese blogger reminded people that when traveling abroad, airport officials might just suspect you're escaping and send you back.
Mention to those traveling abroad, the phenomenon of being turned back is still quite serious in Shenyang. This morning, a few friends were turned back at Daoshan Airport, their destination being Jeju Island in South Korea. After being turned back, they checked their information to see where they went wrong. They even went to the local police station and the immigration office. But there was no problem found. Our conclusion is that as long as Customs and Border Control suspect you might be trying to escape, they may turn you back. What should you do if you're just suspected and turned back?
They may turn you back.
It's not just international tourism. Even studying abroad can lead to repeated questioning. On April 15th, a blogger shared that a student heading to Japan was questioned for a long time at the border.
Just now, a student was questioned for 50 minutes at the domestic border check. They even checked his phone, chat records, photos, etc. If they find anything wrong, they will use the reason that your purpose of going to Japan is not pure to deny your departure, so everyone must pay attention. What questions do they typically ask? They usually ask why you are going abroad, what major you will study, the name of your language school, where your language school is, and whether you will return. If you hesitate in answering, they will call someone over to check your phone, chat records, photos, etc. Fortunately, we did some training for the student overnight, and now the student has boarded the plane. I'm about to go to the airport to pick them up.
Not only is leaving the country heavily scrutinized, but those entering are also closely examined, including both Chinese and foreign nationals.
When I left, no one asked me anything, but when I returned, I was asked a lot of questions. I really don't understand. I just came back from abroad from Hong Kong to Shenzhen. There was almost no immigration inspection at the Hong Kong airport. No questioning at all. But once I got to Shenzhen, they started flipping through my passport carefully, flipping through it 4 or 5 times. I've only traveled abroad a few times, and those trips were all straightforward. Yet they went through my passport thoroughly. It didn't stop there. They also checked my travel photos on my phone. I saw even more outrageous examples online, where people were asked about their shopping lists and travel plans. Oh my gosh. I was traveling to a visa-free country and they still asked for all these things. I really don't understand.
In April 2024, China's Ministry of State Security announced new regulations, greatly expanding the rights of law enforcement to investigate people's mobile phones and other electronic devices. This will also apply to Chinese citizens returning to China and foreign visitors. Miss F, a Hong Kong resident who frequently travels between Shenzhen and Hong Kong, shared that it's nearly impossible to travel for business or tourism in mainland China without a phone. She mentioned, "The reason why you can't be without a phone in China is that all the payment apps are on it. Without a phone, you won't be able to do anything. I told my friends, never think about going without your phone. The authorities will question how you plan to make payments. Of course, if my phone has a lot of politically sensitive content, I'll bring a different phone when I go to China." After 3 years of the pandemic, in 2023, the CCP reopened its borders. However, the restrictions on government officials and employees of state-owned enterprises have increased. Apart from stricter customs checks upon departure, the most common issue is the tightening of passport issuance. It's not just activists being restricted anymore. In 2025, even teachers in China are being asked to turn in their passports. Yes, teachers. In many schools and public institutions, personal travel is now considered a liability. Yang Xiaohua, a former head of legal at Beijing Construction Bank, explained it this way. Technically, officials can still apply to travel overseas, but no one wants to approve it. Why? Because if something goes wrong, they're the ones who get punished. This fear didn't begin overnight. Back in 2015, Liu Xiao, a former Forestry Bureau deputy director in Hunan, was ordered to surrender his passport. At first, the policy applied only to department-level officials. Then it spread to tech departments, science ministries, and later, to everyone on a government payroll. Doctors, engineers, local village leaders, even retirees drawing a state pension. They're all now part of a silent list, no travel allowed. A 2024 report by South China Morning Post revealed what insiders have long known. Despite reopening borders post-pandemic, the Chinese government is tightening outbound control for anyone tied to public funds. The net is wide. Employees of state-owned enterprises, leaders of schools and hospitals, even workers in public banks now fall under these restrictions. Why the sudden obsession with keeping people inside? Chinese scholar Yashan offers a sobering theory. The CCP's biggest fear isn't terrorism or sanctions, it's defection. If someone leaves and speaks the truth, the whole system could unravel. And that fear exploded in 2024, when the CIA released 2 Mandarin language videos openly encouraging CCP officials to defect. No code words, no secrets, just a clear message. Come to us, tell the truth, we'll protect you. To the party, this wasn't just propaganda, it was psychological warfare. And behind the scenes, it triggered a security nightmare. Who could be trusted? Who was watching? And who was planning to walk away? Former Chinese media figure Jia Linxian believes that the most likely group of CCP officials to respond to the CIA's calls would be these 4 categories.
1. Those who once held high positions but have since been sidelined due to internal power struggles. These individuals possess classified information and may choose to trade that information for freedom. 2. Young technical staff in the technology and data departments. This group tends to have strong language skills, access to external information, and a clear understanding of the gap between party propaganda and reality. They see the dark side of the system through their work on internet censorship, AI surveillance, and digital identity systems. They may not be fooled by slogans, but could be awakened by their conscience. 3. CCP diplomats stationed abroad and senior managers of state-owned enterprises. Having lived abroad for a long time, they have developed international values, witnessed the collapse of China's international image, and are concerned about their personal property and safety. These individuals are likely to defect to the West, knowing that returning to China may lead to the loss of both wealth and security. 4. Internal control personnel from the police, national security, and disciplinary inspection systems. These individuals have been involved in political purges, secret detentions, and even torture. And while they may seem emotionless, they're not completely indifferent. Once given the chance to break free from control, they could become whistleblowers.
The Chinese Communist Party has built one of the most advanced surveillance states on Earth. Today, that system is being turned inward, watching not just the population at large, but its own officials. And now, the very people tasked with enforcing loyalty are quietly preparing to run. Chen Daoyin, an independent political scholar living in Chile, puts it bluntly. The stronger the regime's sense of crisis, the stronger its grip becomes. To the CCP, control isn't just a tactic, it's a survival instinct. And the signs are everywhere, from banned passports to border interrogations, from blocked emigration to phone seizures. Each new restriction is a symptom of something deeper, fear. Fear that the system might not hold. It's no longer just the average citizen feeling suffocated. Today, even top officials in the CCP are gripped by anxiety. Behind closed doors, many of them believe exactly what critics have warned for years. This regime might not survive. Australia-based scholar Yuan Hongying reveals a chilling reality. Most Chinese officials today are the very two-faced people that Xi Jinping warns about. They swear loyalty by day and quietly look for the exits at night. Beijing's last line of defense? A super-intelligent surveillance network designed to monitor and control its own elite. But systems fail, software breaks, regimes crack, and as Yuan warns, all the conditions for a major political change in China are already in place. Now we're just waiting for historical opportunity. A country doesn't build walls to keep people out. It builds them when it's afraid they won't come back. This isn't just a story about travel bans or passport delays. This is about control, about power, and about the millions of people, educated, loyal, and once hopeful, now looking for a door that may never open again. What do you think will happen next inside China? Subscribe for more reports that go beyond the headlines